We're a little bit delayed this month with our next article because we did a 100-kilometre walk a couple of weekends ago. So we started off the month, or we started off the whole summer really, doing lots of training for it. I walked a marathon around London, which was really interesting, wasn't it?
Struggle.
Very tough, but it was actually nothing compared to the actual day, or 2 days. But and then we've been recovering ever since. We'd just like to say a massive thank you to everyone that donated. People really showed their generosity, and we've managed to raise over £1,200 for Mind, the mental health charity. So yes, we're really grateful for all of that. So this month's article is about the impact of migration on well-being for both the migrants and also for the native people of the country that they have migrated to. I'm going to start off with some data to give you a background on the topic. 257.7 million people worldwide were international migrants in 2017.
What's that as the global population, Jess?
3.4%, which actually means, on the contrary to what is presented in the media, that 96.6 people actually don't leave their home country and actually stay in their country.
What's the other one you got?
Another statistic.
Yeah. In 1997.
In 1997, $77 billion was sent back from the migrant back to their native country. And 15 years later, in 2012, that statistic was 529 billion, which is just a crazy increase.
There's a super big increase, and so that's kind of leads us on to the next section of the paper. In the next section of the paper, we talk about the benefits and the drawbacks of migration from the way that policymakers might look at it. So what Jess was just talking about is actually called remittances. It's the fancy word for sending money back home.
Ooh, fancy.
And yeah, so since over the last 20 years, it's just gone really, really fast up. And this has some benefits and some drawbacks for the countries that the migrants have left. So the people that say
for their native country.
No, so for their native country.
Okay.
Yeah. So the benefit is that the person that's gone to another country and is now sending back money to them, it's typically a stable source of funding, so it's quite, you expect it to come through, there's not that much volatility in it, and you know it's going to be there. The negative is that for the countries that have really high remittances, they tend to stagnate, they tend to become quite low growth countries because they can rely on the money being sent back to them. They don't tend to think about, well, what can we do to solve our issues? What can we do to become more innovative? We've got, our brother in Germany sending us our money back, so we don't need to do something like this. So that can be one of the drawbacks of migration for people from an income perspective. So in that section of the paper, we talk about the benefits and the drawbacks. We actually go into 5 different topics, but I just want to talk to you about one other. And that's the fiscal impact, so the impact of migrants on government spending and taxes, because this is something that we think doesn't get the correct media coverage at the moment. So there's been quite a few studies. There's one really influential one by the OECD, which is a big economic organisation that writes policy papers to try and influence the way that countries do things. And they found that the actual impact of migrants on government spending and taxes is firstly quite small, so they don't actually cost the government that much, and they actually find that it's positive. So more migrants spend more money, they pay more taxes than they actually cost the government. So they're actually a net gain to most countries, at least in Europe, from this study. So
is that things like using healthcare services less and
exactly, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So and typically they tend to help pension systems and stuff like this, because migrants that come in, they tend to be younger people looking for a job, and for countries that have an aging population, that they can be a huge strain on the government. Whereas if you bring in a lot more young people that are paying taxes, they can help fund the pension system. So they actually tend to be a benefit in this area. So in the final section of the paper, we looked to summarise some of the findings from a really influential study in 2013 by the International Organisation of Migration.
Ooh, right first time.
So the study was done in 2013 and it was about the effect of migration on wellbeing and development. And they split it into 4 different sections. So one is looking at the impact of migration from high-income countries to another high-income country, so like going from the UK to the US. And then they do high to low, so going from UK to Africa, then low to high, Africa to the UK, and then low to low, Africa to Africa. And yeah, the findings are really interesting. So they find that the ones that do the best are the ones that go from a high-income country to another high-income country. So yeah, it goes UK to the US. It tends to be the case that they make a more informed decision. They're not honestly forced to go, they go because they want to. And they find it easier to settle into life in that country there. Whereas if you're going from low to high, quite often you might not make the best well-informed decision, you might not really know where you should be going. You find it difficult to get into the labour market, and you also probably don't have as much disposable income as the rest of the people in the country, so you can't get involved in as many things as you'd like to.
Is that like social activities or like?
Yeah, so they benefit from like their healthcare is better, their education's better, but yeah, it's the more social side they find it difficult to integrate. And the story's kind of similar, but in the opposite way. If you're going from high to low, so if you go from the UK to Africa, you've got loads of money. You feel really rich, is what they say. But you also don't necessarily feel that safe, and you don't necessarily integrate with the society too if you don't feel safe. So they say that there's quite a lot of barriers to getting involved in the community because of these reasons. And then low to low, interestingly they find that it's the migrants benefit from the move, but they still don't do as well as the natives of the country that they've moved to. So it looks like it's a good job that they moved from one country to another. Their well-being tends to be higher, but they're still not doing as well as the people that actually live in that country.